It's Medium Jenny Lee. I'm here with the next Raw book discussion. We're on session 29. So this means we have made it to video number 30. Wow. I've done a lot of talking. Let's talk some more. Okay, session 29. Don asks, is our sun in this planetary system a sublogos or a physical manifestation of a sublogos? So remember, a sublogos, or a logos of what they were referring to, is so there's everything that ever was the creator together, right? It's all one thing. And then it decided it wanted to not just be this lonesome thing all by itself, from what I can gather. So it breaks off into these sections. It'll end those sections is what Ra refers to as a logos. But then each logos starts to separate into sublogos so that it can make more stuff and more stuff and more stuff. So Don's asking if our sun is one of the sublogos. Ra says this is correct. What? Then I'm assuming this sublogos created this planetary system in all of its densities. Is this correct? Incorrect. The sublogos of your solar entity differentiated some experiential components within the patterns of intelligent infinite energy set in motion by the logos, which created the basic conditions and vibratory rates consistent throughout your major galaxy. So there's a logos that created like pretty much everything in our whole galaxy, but then it broke off a little bit, and there's a sublogos that created became our solar entity, and differentiated some of the stuff in the patterns of our intelligent energy. It's kind of confusing. So remember in the last session, Ra said there was 250 billion stars, right? And I looked that up, and it is not what they're saying it is right now, but, what do we know? I'm saying that there is roughly 250 billion stars or suns in our major galaxy. Are they all part of the same sublogos? They're all part of the same logos. So not the sublogos, but the major logos. Your solar system is a manifestation, somewhat and slightly different, due to the presence of a sublogos. So remember, logos, big, sublogos, smaller. Then our sun is a sublogos of the logos that is the major galactic logos. That's a lot of logos in one sentence. Correct. This is getting funny. Okay. Are there any sub-sublogos found in our planetary system that are sub to our sun? Good Lord Almighty. Yes, correct. Would you give me an example of the sub-sublogos? One example is your mind-body-spirit complex. Because remember, it's breaking down into smaller and smaller increments. It starts out as the whole, it breaks off into the logos, it breaks off into sublogos, and then it keeps breaking down into smaller and smaller because it's infinite forever and ever. Then every entity that exists would be some sort of sub or sub-sublogos, correct? Correct. Down to the limits of any observation, for the entire creation is alive. The entire creation is alive. Then the planet, which we walk upon, is a form of sub-sublogos. A planetary entity is so named only as logos if it is working in harmonic fashion with entities upon its surface, like Earth, right? Do the sublogos, such as our sun, have any metaphysical polarity, positive or negative, as we've been using the term? As you use the term, no. Entities through this level of planetary have the strength of intelligent infinity through the use of free will, going through the actions of beingness. The polarity is not as you understand polarity. It's only when the planetary sphere begins harmonically interacting with entities in a mind-body complex, and more especially when the spirit gets involved, that planetary spheres take on distortions due to thought complexes of entities interacting with the planetary entity. The creation of the one infinite creator does not have the polarity you speak of. So planetary entities don't have the polarities, but they start to get some sort of polarity that's different once they get entities living upon them that start creating polarities. Does that make sense? Yesterday you stated the planets in first density are in a timeless state. Can you tell me how the effect we appreciate as time comes into being? The process of which time-space comes into continuum form is a function of the careful building of an entire plan of vibratory rates, densities, and potentials. When this plan has coalesced into thought complexes of love, then the physical manifestation begins to appear. This first manifestation stage being awareness of consciousness. At the point at which this coalescence is the livingness or beingness point, space-time then begins to unroll its scroll of livingness. I like that. The scroll of livingness. So it seems like time doesn't need to exist until there's an entity that needs time. Time is very relative to the consciousness and awareness. So until a being has consciousness and awareness, time doesn't need to exist. So it's really just a function of a specific set. Make sense? Okay, Don says, love creates the vibration in space-time in order to form the photon, correct? That's essentially correct. So Don's getting into the whole sciencey part of this, because remember, the love and the light are extremely connected to each other. So Don's saying, you know, if love came first and then it's light, then love is what creates the light, which photons are what light is made of. And Ross says, pretty much, yeah. So then Don has another question here. This continued application of love creates rotations of these vibrations, which are in discrete units of angular velocity. This then creates chemical elements in our physical illusion, the elements in the other, which you would call non-physical, or other densities in the illusion. Is this correct? So the love creates the rotations, and then the light, and then chemical elements and the physical illusion. The logos creates all densities. Your question was unclear. However, we shall state the logos does create both the space-time densities and the occupying time-space densities. Confusing, okay. I'm assuming that the rotations, the quantized incremental rotations of the vibration show up as the material of these densities. Correct? Essentially correct. So there is an inward motion of these particles, which is opposite the direction of space-time progression. And this inward progression then is seen by us as what we call gravity. Correct? Not correct. How does gravity come about? Gravity is the pressing toward the inner light and love, the seeking toward the spiral line of light which progresses towards the Creator. This is a manifestation of a spiritual event or condition of livingness. So this gravitational stuff gets really confusing. So Ra's saying that gravity comes into play because it's a pressing toward the inner light and love. a seeking toward the spiral line of light which progresses toward the creator. Which inner makes me think that it's going in towards us or in towards the planet. I'm not entirely sure. So then Dawn wants to know about how the gravity of our moon, gravity we know now on our moon is less than that upon our planet. Is there a metaphysical principle behind this? The metaphysical and physical are inseparable. Thus, that of which you spoke, which attempts to explain this phenomenon, is able to calculate the gravitational force of most objects due to the various physical aspects, such as what we know as mass. However, we felt it necessary to indicate the corresponding and equally important metaphysical nature of gravity. Huh? The metaphysical and physical are inseparable. I got that. Because it's all the same thing. We like to think of it as separate things, but it's not. So then Ra says, that which of you spoke, which attempts to explain the phenomenon, calculate the gravitational force of objects due to the various physical aspects called mass. We felt it necessary to indicate the corresponding equally important metaphysical nature of the gravity. So I think he's kind of saying, like, you guys know about gravitational forces based on mass, but we wanted to mention there's a metaphysical aspect of it as well. Don says, sometimes have difficulty in getting a foothold into what I'm trying to seek out the metaphysical principles behind our physical illusion. Yes, Don, it is very confusing. Could you give me an example of the amount of gravity and the third density conditions on the surface of the planet Venus? Is it greater or less than Earth? The gravity, the attractive force of what you describe as the pressing outward force towards the creator, is greater spiritually upon the entity you call Venus due to the greater degree of success at seeking the creator. Okay, I looked up some stuff here, but let's finish this section, this little question answer part here. When all of the creation in its infinity has reached a spiritual gravitational mass, the entire creation infinitely coalesces, the light seeking and finding its source, and thusly ending the creation, beginning a new creation, much as you consider the black hole with its conditions of infinitely great mass at the 0 point, which no light may be seen as it has been absorbed. Okay. There's two things here in this paragraph. There's a lot going on here. So, first, Dawn asks about Venus. What's the gravity on Venus? And Ra says that the gravity is pressing outward toward the creator because Venus had a greater degree of success at getting closer to the creator because they were more harmonious. They were able to, later on explains, they were able to advance at a faster rate. So there's a greater, see, this is where stuff gets confusing. It's a greater gravitational pull outward toward the creator. That's what Ra is saying. By using the word greater with the word gravity, we think of it being greater gravity, but that's not what Ra is saying. It's greater outward toward the creator, which means there's less gravity toward the planet of Venus. Now I looked it up, okay? I looked it up, and this is what it says. Scientifically, Venus is 91% the gravity of Earth. So the gravity of Venus is 91% of what the gravity of Earth is. Meaning that if you were on the surface of Venus and you jumped, you would be able to jump way higher. And light objects would float. So what Ra said about it is true scientifically. There's less gravitational pull on Venus toward the planet, and Ra just explains it as a gravitational pull toward the creator because of the metaphysical aspect of things. Very interesting. Once again, science and religion or spirituality or whatever combined, connected, all the same thing. It's great. It's wonderful. Now, the next thing that Ra talked about, which went into a whole different topic, and Dawn asks more about this whole black hole idea here in a second. But Ra brings up like this whole can of worms of stuff in this paragraph, because Ra says that at some point, all of creation okay, let's back up. All of creation is seeking to return to the source through this ascending through these densities or dimensions or however you want to talk about it, frequencies, whatever. And when everything in the whole creation makes it back to the source, creation, it ceases to exist and it starts all over again. Which, scientifically, that's exactly how they explain the Big Bang Theory. The Big Bang Theory is everything was a tiny little speck dot of potential energy, and something caused it to explode into a big bang, right? And then it starts infinitely going outward, 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 like they mentioned in the last session, creating. But then, like Ross said in the last session, at some point, the creation wants to know where it came from, so it starts seeking inward. And when it finally all gets back together, it starts all over again. So this brings up a whole ton of million bazillion questions about how many times has the creation started all over again. This can't be the first time that the creation has started, if they're talking about it in a sense that it's happened before. And I think even science says that they think it might have happened before too. That everything might have went back together, and then, like, it's constantly expanding and contracting. And then the whole black hole thing, a black hole has this crazy mass because it's everything, So let's go back into Dawn's next question, because it's more about the black hole part. Okay, then the black hole would be a point, am I correct in saying, it would be a point in which the environmental material had succeeded in reuniting with unity or the creator? The black hole, which manifests in third density, is the physical complex manifestation of the spiritual and metaphysical. This is correct. So it sounds like black holes are a place where things have made it back to the creator. If your brains are working like my brain is, there's a lot of questions in there. Then when our planet Earth gets fully into fourth density, will there be a greater gravity? There will be a greater spiritual gravity, causing a denser illusion. So here Dawn's also confused, because greater gravity means that it's getting pulled closer to Earth, but a greater spiritual gravity would mean that it's going away from the Earth. It's a less gravitational pull towards the Earth and a greater gravitational pull outward toward the creator. So then Dawn asks, this denser illusion would increase the gravitational acceleration above the 32.2 feet per second squared. So funny, Don knows all this. He's so smart. Correct? Your entities do not have the instrument to measure spiritual gravity, but only to observe a few of its extreme manifestations. So Don is just real confused, and it's understandable that he's confused, because like I've mentioned before, you got to remember Don's sitting in a room with Jim, who's meditating, and Carla, who's in a trance, and he's having to quickly answer questions based on stuff they already wrote down and things that are coming up in the conversation. He hasn't had time to process the fact that Ra is not talking about gravity toward the planet, that Ra is talking about gravity toward the Creator. Okay. So then Don says, I know we can't measure spiritual gravity, but I was wondering the physical effect would be measurable as an increase in the gravitational constant. The increase measurable by existing instrument would and will be statistical in nature only, and not significant. Okay. Now, as the creation is formed, as the atoms form from rotations of the vibration, which is light, they coalesce in a certain manner sometimes. They find distances, inner atomic distances, from each other at precise distance and produce a lattice structure which we call crystalline. So remember, this is all Don asking a question. I'm guessing that because of the formation from intelligent energy of the precise crystalline structure, that it is possible by some technique to tap intelligent energy and bring it into a physical illusion by working through the crystalline structure. So Don's basically saying, we know how stuff is made. Is it possible for us to actually make stuff by tapping into intelligent energy? Ra says, correct, insofar as the crystalline physical structure is charged by a correspondingly crystallized or regularized balanced mind-body-spirit complex. So it makes it sound like if somebody's going to create something purposefully, because remember, we can create things on accident. They're called thought forms. If we can create something purposefully, like we're really trying to make something, the person making it would have to also be crystallized, regularized, and balanced. Okay. I'm assuming then from what you said, in order to use the crystal to tap intelligent energy, it's necessary to have a particularly undistorted mind-body-spirit complex. Specifically correct, yes. There must be a point at which the removal of distortion reaches a minimum for the use of crystal tapping and intelligent energy. This is correct only as is understood that each mind-body-spirit complex has a unique such point. So each person is going to need a specific amount of not being distorted. Each person's different. Can you tell me why each person has a unique point of distortion rating? Each mind-body-spirit complex is a unique portion of the one creator. So because each one is unique, they're going to have different unique settings for themselves. Then, as you are saying, there's no single level of purity required to tap intelligent energy through crystals, but can be a wide variation in the amount of distortion that an entity may have, but each entity has to reach this particular point of what I might call energizing the ability. Is this right? Incorrect. We're done. The necessity of the mind-body-spirit complex to be of a certain balance, this balance thus enabling it to reach a set level of lack of distortion. The critical difficulties are unique for each mind-body-spirit complex due to the experiential distillations, which in total are the violet ray beingness of each such entity. So remember, the violet ray is your crown chakra, and that's the total sum beingness of your energy with the distortions, etc. So Ra's saying that there has to be a certain balance and lack of distortion with your total beingness, which can be found at your crown chakra. This balance is necessary for work to be done seeking the gateway to intelligent infinity through the use of crystals and through any other use. No two mind, body, spirit crystallized natures are the same. The distortion requirements, vibrationally speaking, are set. Okay. Then you are able to read the violet ray of an entity. Is it possible then to immediately determine whether the entity could use crystals to tap intelligent energy? It is possible for one of 5th density or above to do this. How interesting. So Ra, being a 4th density entity, cannot determine through somebody's violet ray. Can't just scan the violet ray and see what's up. Only a 5th density or above. Is it possible for you to tell me how a crystal is used by an entity who has satisfactorily achieved necessary violet ray qualification? How is it possible for the entity to use the crystal, or how he should use the crystal? The gateway to intelligent infinity is born of the sympathetic vibration in a balanced state, accompanying the will to seek and the will to serve, the will to seek. But poor Don, he's like, can you just answer the daggone question here, Ra? But can you tell me precisely what the entity would do with the crystal to use for its purposes of seeking the intelligent infinity? Just tell me how to use it. The use of the crystal in the physical manifestation is the use wherein the entity of crystalline nature charges the regularized physical crystal with this seeking, thus enabling it to vibrate harmonically, become the catalyst or gateway whereby intelligent infinity may thus become intelligent energy, this crystal serving as an analog of the violet ray of mind, body, spirit in relatively undistorted form. So let's try to pick this apart here and see what the what. All right. So a person has to be balanced, not at some level, not have a lot of distortions, but each person is different. That total beingness is found through the violet ray, which is your crown chakra. They have to have that first, and then they can use a crystal, which I mean, they're talking about crystals, right? Like rocks. They're talking about rocks, right? Like I could use the rose quartz to do this, right? You guys think that this is what they're talking about? They're talking about rocks. I mean, they're crystalline structures, right? And Ra was always talking about crystals being used in the pyramids to do healing, right? Okay. So after a person is balanced properly and has whatever level of distortion that's appropriate for their individualness, then they would set an intention and charge the crystal to be what they want it to be, as far as reaching intelligent infinity or becoming part of this intelligent energy. And then the crystal would become the object by which intelligent infinity would become intelligent energy. Hold on, let's read this little part again. Become the catalyst or gateway whereby intelligent infinity may become intelligent energy, this crystal serving as an analog of the violet ray of the mind-body-spirit complex in a relatively undistorted form. So it's like your specific violet ray would be working through the crystal to reach intelligent infinity, is what is what I feel like they're talking about. If you feel like you're talking about something else, put it in the comments. What do you think? This is only my interpretation of this information because it's very confusing. But that's what it sounds like. And and we as humans know that crystals do all kinds of things, and we have different purposes for every kind of different crystal, and we use them for all kinds of different stuff. and healing being one of them, which is what Ra was saying that they were doing with the crystals and the pyramids. So let's just keep going. Is it possible at all for you to instruct us in specific uses of crystals? There are, we consider, things which are not officiate. I don't know this word. What is that word? We can't tell you right now. Due to the possible infringement upon your free will, entities of the Confederation have erred in the past. The uses of the crystal include the uses for healing, power, and even the development of life forms. We feel it is unwise to offer instruction at this time to your people because you're a bunch of idiots. Oh, he didn't say that part. Have shown a tendency to use peaceful sources of power for disharmonious reason. Yeah. So they did try to teach us how to use crystals in the past, right? Egypt, South America, whatever. Crystals. Use crystals for this. And we're like, no, we're not going to heal each other. We're going to kill each other with it. We're going to destroy the whole planet. Because, well, I don't even know why. So, in 1981, Ra saying, no, we're not going to tell you how to use the crystals again because you guys are a bunch of dumbasses. No, Ra would never say that we're dumbasses. That's me saying that we're dumbasses. But it does say that they're used for healing and power, and really interestingly, they develop life forms. What the heck and heck? Okay, Don asks, as the planets develop, is it possible for you to give me an example of various planetary developments in a metaphysical sense having to do with the development of consciousness and its polarities through the galaxy? In other words, I believe that some of these planets develop quite rapidly into higher density planets, and some take longer times. The particular logos of your major galaxy has used a large portion of its coalesced material to reflect the beingness of the Creator. In this way, there is much of your galactic system which does not have the progression of what you speak, but dwells spiritually in the portion of the logos. Of those entities upon which consciousness dwells, there is a variety of time-space periods during which the higher densities of experience are attained by consciousness. So the logos created so much stuff that some of it does not progress like Earth progressed, but it merely dwells spiritually as a part of the logos. But there are places where time and space exists because of consciousness, and entities can move up through the densities. Okay, now here's the last question for this session from Don. The instrument, Carla, does not desire to do physical healing work. She already does spiritual balancing by hands. Can she read the private healing material without doing physical healing? I'm assuming that she means she can read it without creating problems in her life pattern. She does not wish to incur lessening of positive polarity. So remember, Carla doesn't know what she's saying. Carla's soul is like totally out of her body. When they're channeling Ra, she has no idea what they're talking about. She doesn't listen to the recordings. She doesn't read the transcripts. She doesn't know what's going on. She's totally out of the loop. Which if I was her, there's no way there's no way I could do this day after day and not know what the hell I was saying. I would want to know. But Carla is such a sweet, pure, loving, serving person that she's like, she doesn't want to interfere with it at all. So she doesn't know what they're talking about. But now she's curious to know if she can read the stuff about physical healing. So this is Ra's answer. We shall speak shortly due to the fact that we are attempting to conserve the instrument's vital energies due to the 3-month period of which we have spoken. So remember, she took some LSD that came from an Orion group person, and it screwed her up for 3 months. It's making her vital energy low. This entity has an experiential history of healing on levels other than the not so-called physical. Thus, it is acceptable that this material be read. However, the exercise of fire shall never be practiced by this instrument, as it is used in the stronger form of the physical healing. Okay, so first of all, Carla already does a lot of non-physical healing. Like, she has a history of it, and I think they're referring not just to her history as Carla, but her history as an entity throughout time, that she's always been healing in non-physical ways. So it's fine if she reads the physical healing material that they've been learning about. But then what in the hell is Ra talking about? Fire? The exercise of fire shall never be practiced by the instrument, as it is used in the stronger form of physical healing. Who the hell is using fire to heal people? Does anybody know of a practice where they use fire to heal people? The only thing I can think of is like walking on coals or something. What in the world are they talking about? Does anybody know? Put it in the comments. So anyway, this concludes session 29. Let's review what we learned today. So they went over logos and sublogos, some more creation of our galaxy information. Talked a lot about our sun and planet and the polarities. And then we went into creation of matter through light and love. Then we learned some really interesting stuff about spiritual gravity and Venus. The end of all creation also being the beginning of new creation with black holes. Then we went on to talk about crystals. Don really just wanted to know about some crystals. And Ra was like, nope. But we did. We did learn some more about crystals. And then we learned about a little bit more about our galaxy. So, pretty interesting stuff in this session, I would say. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. Go ahead and get in the comments. We need some discussion about this material because it's so complicated and so dense, and it covers so many different topics, and it connects science and religion and spirituality in so many ways. So get in there, put in some comments. Let's talk about this. What do you guys think? Thanks for watching, and don't forget there are 29 videos before this one, and I'm a little over halfway through this book, so there's gonna be a lot more because there's also a volume 2. See you guys later. Bye.